Welcome to the second episode of Starline Activations. We are almost at the end of Aries season, and just 3 days before the season closes, we have the new moon in Aries. And today we will dive into what you can already feel that is ready to move, but what you are still feeling hesitant about, and what it actually means when your system says not yet. We will go into the moment where your desire meets the memory of another moment when it just wasn't safe to follow the desire, and how this new moon is not here to push you or to get you into action, but how it is here to deepen what you are able to hold within your own life force. But before we move into the actual transmission of this episode, there are a few things that I would like to share with you. Because as part of my own spirals of awakening, I created the Oracle of the 13 Mothers, and I recently launched a pre-order campaign for this deck. It has been fully funded, and very soon it will be available to order. So if you feel curious or you feel called to learn more about this, you can find more information through the link that I will leave in the episode details. And besides that, if you are listening to this episode and you feel called to understand how these energies are moving through you personally, how they affect you personally, I do offer astrology and light language sessions. I work with astrology through the lens of soul evolution, meaning that we are not just looking at this lifetime or even just this earth, but at your deeper soul journey. And within the light language sessions, we open into the multidimensional aspects of yourself. So the parts that are ready to be seen, ready to be felt, and ready to be integrated. And in these sessions, I work with your chart, the Akashic field, and with light language. So let's dive into the episode. On Friday the 17th, we have the new moon in Aries. The new moon is the opposite of a full moon. And what that means is that the moon and the sun are joining each other in the sky. The moon is in its darkest phase. It is a very internal and reflective period, but this time the new moon is in Aries. And while this feels obvious at first, as in Aries is fiery and outgoing and it is fast and direct, Aries normally pushes you to move before you understand why. But this time the energy feels different, partly because half of the sky is currently in the zodiac sign of Aries, but there is also this sense of exhaustion on one hand and then drive on the other hand. A sense of something wants to move, but your system is not fully there yet. And rather than seeing this as an issue, it is actually part of an initiation. Because in its highest form, this part of the cycle, this part of the year, is not just about movement, but it is an activation of life force and your relationship with your own life force. And Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is where consciousness decides to incarnate. It is the very first spark, but at the same time, it is also the first separation from the void into being form. And as Aries is the youngest sign, it has a childlike curiosity. Think of a toddler, like so excited to explore everything, to try new things. They are just in awe of every little detail. And as Aries grows and evolves, that curiosity comes with wanting things, having desires, having passion. And many times Aries is being explained as having too much passion, too much desires, moving too fast, which can lead to frustration and anger. And while there might be truth in this, at least for the low road of Aries, in its high road is actually a protector. It initiates and it takes the lead. It moves based on aligned desires. So translating that into Aries in its evolution, it leads initiations. With so many planets in Aries, what if that initiation is to check in with your own aligned desires? Because desires are often deeply misunderstood. Desires are often described as something for yourself, something personal, something you need. But desires don't have to be that. They are part of evolution itself, because think about it. Without desires, what would move? Desires can come in very different ways, like the desire to be with someone, the desire for closeness, or the desire for being really seen. But it can also be the desire to create, to share your voice, to express yourself through creation, or the desire to expand yourself, to see beyond your current timeline, your current way of being. Desires can come up in so many different ways, in so many different forms. But each time, desire is one of the things that help consciousness to be in form and to keep moving. So I think the question should not be how not to desire. I think the question should be, is this a clean and aligned desire? Is this a true desire, or is it more coming from a certain pattern, such as from a feeling of lack or from an outdated memory that no longer serves you? And this new moon is pointing to that very directly. To dive into some astrology facts, like half of the sky is in Aries under this new moon. And in the early degrees of Aries, Neptune is holding hands with Mercury in the sky, which translate into confusion about what you are feeling or thinking. And messages can come in very subtle, and many signs can come through dreams, for example. I would really pay attention to your dreams around the new moon, because it can feel like something makes sense, but you cannot fully explain yet why. And then there's also Saturn right there as well in the early degrees of Aries, which creates the feeling of a boundary. What I am feeling is restricted, like I cannot fully act on what I'm feeling, or I cannot fully act on what I am thinking. So it really can feel like this boundary and this restriction. And then right in the middle of these conjunctions, there is Mars. Mars is in the middle of these planets, and Mars is very comfortable in Aries. It is its home sign, but this is adding the layer of wanting to move forward, even if it still feels unclear, and even if there is a boundary in doing so. So this creates this very impulsive feeling. So you might be asking yourself around the energy of this new moon, like, what is actually an impulse and what is actually direction? Where am I being reactive, and where am I actually acting from my truth? Because Aries in its high road is directional fire, but in its low road it is impulsive. So there is a field where there is a very clear desire present. Like, you probably already know what it is for you, for yourself personally, because it is so strong that it's almost undeniable. But at the same time, it is not immediately actionable. And that is what can lead to that frustration, because the illusion of Neptune there with the other planets, that can really create the idea of being stuck. Even if you are not really, it can create that mindset of, I'm stuck, I cannot move. Even if I want to move, I cannot move. But holding the fire from within, directing the fire and the life force within yourself, will make you see that there is no lack, and that you are actually not stuck, but that the energy around you is simply building the space and the capacity to hold what is already arising and what is already being initiated within this Aries season. And if we translate this back to desires, which can show up as energy within the body, life force energy, it can be with Aries, like Mars, sexual energy, but it can also be creative energy or a pull to something very magnetic. It can show up in different ways, but most often when this energy comes up, we tend to do two things. We either push it down, ignore and suppress it, or we act upon it quickly and we release it quickly. But both ways, this fiery energy is not being held. It is not directed and it cannot evolve. So it just keeps repeating itself. So in a way, fire without direction or desire that gets ignored or act upon too fast doesn't allow a different outcome or to break a pattern. Because at the moment that the desire got too intense and it wasn't able to sustain within the body, it was not held, it already got released. So in a way, during this new moon, when we feel that intensity, it is important to stay with the intensity and to hold it, but to hold it within our own bodies, to hold it inwards. It is a new moon, it is very reflective, it is an inward period. And to reflect where it is coming from rather than bypassing it by acting too fast or by ignoring it. That is also how the fire energy or life force energy then works for our own system. And then looking at the degrees of the new moon itself, it is at 27 degrees of Aries. So while the other planets are conjunct early degrees, the new moon itself is at the end of the zodiac at 27 degrees of Aries. And right next to the new moon sits Chiron at 26 degrees of Aries. And that changes the dynamic completely, because that is adding a true initiation point of identity. It makes this new moon felt very personal. It adds memories of failing and memories of being wounded, of having moved before, but it not going as planned. It can feel triggering. And the pain and the hurt of past experiences around your current desires that you want to act upon might come to the forefront, and they might challenge you, and you might feel doubt or hurt, or it's almost like Aries is saying, move now. But then Chiron right next to it is saying, are you sure? Because last time that you did, you got hurt. So the medicine is not to just move anyway, but it is, can you stay true to the desire and to the movement you want to create while holding the part of you that might feel hesitant or that might be afraid of getting hurt? And if so, can you be okay with the outcome of you moving either way? Because that right there will give you the answer to your question, rather to move or not. And of course, like always, see where in your chart you will feel this by checking in which house this new moon is for you. So you would look at your chart and you would check where Aries is in your chart, because that part of your chart, that house of your chart is being activated right now. In that area of your life, some form of an initiation will take place. For example, if Aries is within your first house, like Aries risings, your core identity and self-trust and your body, those topics will come up for you during this new moon cycle. In the fourth house, themes around family, your home, your past, your ancestors, these themes will come up. And if it's in the seventh house, it will be around relationships, collaborations, for example. And in the 10th house, it will be around work, around how you are visible, how the world is seeing you, how you are in the public. Those are the examples of the angular houses. And if you do not know your chart and you do not know your houses, you can always reach out to learn more and to learn more about what is being activated and what is being initiated for you personally. And I'm aware that these are not typical Aries topics to discuss. However, in the first week of this Aries season, I had a dream in which a magical ram came out of a lake. And without going into too much details around this dream, what stood out to me was the elemental translation of this dream, because the ram, the Aries, being a fire sign, it was rising out of the water. And the eyes of the ram, it clearly wanted something. And what felt true to me is how true desire is being born from our emotional body. Because water is our emotional body. And there is a chemical power of when water and fire blend, because they are not naturally compatible. but they can really create a synergy and they can really be in balance. To me, it showed how fire, desire, is not separate from the emotional body. It's not separate from the water. It exists within it, and it is created within it, and it rises from it. And from there, yes, Aries is the start of an astrological new year, but it is also the start of initiation cycles. And it truly taught me how to dive deep into the meaning of the difference between a need and a desire. Because how I see it, a desire becomes a need once it gets entangled with imprints. So in other words, when it becomes urgent, when we can feel that we cannot be without it, when we think it needs to have a certain outcome to make things better, and that having it would make things better for us somehow. But an aligned desire naturally rises when our emotional body can handle it, when it can be held, when water and fire, which naturally don't work together, no longer resist each other. As an example, think of something you want badly right now: a job, a living situation, a relationship, a reality that you have visualized many times and that you can almost make real in your own mind. Then, while visualizing, pause and then ask yourself, is this timeless? Meaning, would this exist outside of urgency? Would it matter when it arrives or how it comes? And if it wouldn't be here soon, how would that make you feel? Would it feel like contractions within your body? Because that shows where it lives for you. And now question yourself, what if I would not have it at all? Could you still be okay with how things are now? Would you have gratitude for your current situation and what you have? Because that shows if there is any attachment to outcome. And then from there, question yourself, if you do have it, does that then make you feel expanded, or do you simply just feel relief? Because an aligned desire, however it arrives, will create expansion. It's not relief of pressure. And important with needs and desires is that something can start as a pure aligned desire, like clean and grounded, but then with time we create the attachment to it. We ourselves place a timeline on it. If it doesn't happen within a certain time frame, we create a story in our mind that would mean something about ourselves. We create the urgency on it, and we turn our pure and aligned desire into a need. We start to push and we start to force, and well, to begin with, it was just a clean desire. But the thing is, if we can shift it into a need, we can also shift it back where the energy shifts, because it is not linear, it is circular. And by interacting with it different, we can actually change the energy around it by simply shifting the energy, by stating, however this comes, whenever this comes, I am open to receive it. And I am okay regardless of what happens. Because I trust that if it is aligned, it will be. And then so it is. So before you set your Aries New Moon intentions, let's slow this down and let's do a little activation that hopefully will give you clarity around your intentions. So if you can, just close your eyes, and if not, that is completely fine as well. Just try to relax your facial expressions and try to breathe intentionally. And then visualize yourself as an infinite energy, an energy of pure love, an endless field of light where you are the universe and the universe is you. Your desires already exist within your field. And if you feel called to, say internally, I am here to receive what is my highest alignment. And then just notice what is already there, what is already showing up. Perhaps you receive a symbol or a number. Whatever is there, just let it unfold. And with that, thank you so much for listening. I'm wishing you a happy new moon in Aries. And until the next one.